believing in who we are. The subtle truth is that there's only one expression of within ourselves. There's only one true expression of possibility. And I think many of us in this lifetime, in this reality, we basically we fragment ourselves into so many different possibilities of possibilities. I think the one thing which we can look at in this lifetime is that if there was a stream of life force, say our reality, ourselves as an individual, we're just a stream, we're a source of possibility, and our minds are basically, you could refer to as every thought, every different pathway we think is creating a different runoff from the mainstream. And every time we basically look at a possibility or an outcome or a possibility or an outcome, we do send off energy in a different direction. So it's creating a different stream. Now, I think when we feel low in life, when we feel like we don't have that much, we don't have almost direction, we don't have power, we don't have control, we feel like we don't have control in our lives, I think what we can literally visualize our life is that our infinite energy stream of all that is, all that can be, all that does already exist within our infinite ability to manifest and transform into, whatever we want to be, this lifetime or another. The constraints of this reality obviously does have limitations. However, when we transform our consciousness outside of this reality, we soon understand that the limitations within this reality do not exist in other different perspectives, in other different realities, dimensions, whatever you want to call it. Now, back to this reality is that when our energy field is feeling low, we can literally understand that our mind has basically it's drawn our infinite energy, our source, into so many different thought waves, brain algorithms, calculations, whatever you want to refer it to. It's created these kind of pathways of thought. And the way that we can identify this is anything that we've kind of given energy to kind of, we thought that this is what we want to do, this is what we want to create, and then that didn't end up happening. Basically, what we can see this as is that we've started to put our energy, we've started to create this kind of water system, metaphorically, this kind of stream. We've put our energy, we've got it there, and then all of the sudden, the mind has kind of created this other stream, other idea of potentiality, and it's started to going this way. And then what we can literally look at it is that we've put so much energy into creating these kind of, pathways in our life, that eventually what happens is that we're so, not necessarily confused, but we're so, our frequency, our internal, our center point, or our ultimately our presence is so it's ultimately distorted because it doesn't know where its true source is, because it's literally within ourselves. We're a frequency. Ultimately, we're an algorithm, and when we've created these calculations of our life path, you could say, we don't know where our source path is, or we don't know. And this is very, very interesting, because it actually comes to potentially the truth of our existence, is that what are we all doing here? Because if this is literally just like a canvas that we've come here to paint, and to be able to paint an infinite possibility, we've all got this kind of infinite ability to create in this lifetime. However, the truth is that if the underlining, you could almost say, source code of our existence, of everyone's existence on this life path, does have kind of a you could say, like a code or an algorithm that is designed intentionally to develop into a expression of possibility, almost like a flower. And this flower has an outcome. And this is not to say, this is just hypothetically speaking, is that if we all do already have an outcome coming into this reality, we can believe that we have all this, we all have this infinite capability to create, which is true. We do have an infinite capability to create. However, this ability can ultimately deter ourselves from being content within who we naturally already are. And this is where it gets kind of a little bit intense, because if we are this kind of infinite ability of creation, where we can send off, the ability to create, and then we end up going in a different direction, we end up, what can be very tiring is that we get off-centered from our true life purpose, or our true life path. And ultimately, I think what we all have to accept is that this is not a negative thing. I mean, this is almost something that is bound for us to continue to enhance and develop as an individual, because we understand that we can be almost scarred in our lifetime, because we've believed that this is what we needed to do to achieve this kind of destiny for ourselves, and then that ended up potentially being overridden by a different thought wave of, this is what we need to achieve to be the best person who we can be, and then this was overridden, and we've almost ended up with like streams and pools of energy, of possibility, that is still existing, because we're this infinite source, that we've definitely still got connection to these kind of thought patterns, almost algorithms that do still have this infinite ability to create and manifest. And then we're still this kind of, and then we end up getting stuck in between these kind of pools of potential and our true infinite source. And that's where we kind of get, confused and lost, because we end up, potentially being contained within a source that doesn't have that much in a mindset that isn't closely connected to the source consciousness, or this infinite self. So I think the moral of the story that I'm trying to paint, or this kind of idea, is that within this lifetime we are going to question a lot of things. And I think in my opinion, as long as we are understanding that within ourselves we have this infinite ability to create, we need to be very mindful of this infinite ability can kind of not necessarily go against, but it can distract us or extract us from this kind of inner wisdom or this inner knowledge that we do need to experience. There is no coincidence. Our consciousness is creating for a reason. It is experiencing for a reason, and it's being able to come back and question, what is this? What is this reason? Why? And when we question why, we question who. Who is this? Why is this? And when I refer to who is this, is like, who are we? What have we done before this lifetime? Why are we experiencing this reality? And if we want to believe, we can believe whatever we want to believe, but the truth is when we do go deeper and we do start to question, we get closer to who we really are as individuals. We start to develop into this inner knowledge, this inner wisdom of why we're experiencing this lifetime. And when we can connect and grow deeper within this connection, we start to open our minds. We start to free ourselves from the ultimately the manipulation of our society, and we start to deepen our connection and our love connection, our divine connection with everything that is outside of this reality, outside of this system. We start to become one with all that is, ever can be, and ever will be. We ultimately come back to this true source, true infinite, true love. Shaka shaka.